Hey guys, it's Sam, and this is the moment you've all been waiting for. It's my 2017 Book Awards. Actually, that's not quite true, because I feel like most of you have been asking about my favorite and least favorite couples of 2017, which will be coming as well, but you guys should know by now that I read all the way up to the very last day of the year, and I include books in my favorites and in my couples that are all the way to the end of the year, so I need to have time. And January is the time for these videos for me. I know it feels like these videos have been happening for months now because a lot of people start uploading them in like beginning of December, but I'm a traditionalist, you know? If you guys are new to my end of the year videos, every year I do a book awards for my favorite books, and I go through almost award show topics. This was originally a tag that Kayla of Bookadoodles did, so I will link her video down below for when she did this last. But I like doing this because I have a hard time picking out favorite books, but this way I can assign them kind of categories and the main reason why I love them. A couple of these end up in a couple different categories, but like the big reason why I love these books, that's like the category they end up in. So let's get going. I love these videos. These are my favorite videos. So the first is my favorite male main character, and that is Quoth from The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. Now I know Quoth is a polarizing character. That's probably why I love him, because your girl loves polarizing reads and characters and all of that stuff. But Quoth is my favorite unreliable type narrator. I mean, he's obviously telling a story about himself in this story, and you know if you're telling a story about yourself, you're going to talk yourself up, right? So we don't really know exactly like, how good are you? I feel like he's really good, but like, exactly how good, you know? So I love him and I can't wait to know more. I know some people don't like him because of the second book, so that has me very nervous about it, but I adore him. Also, another returning fave is Locke from The Lies of Locke Lamora, so I'm not going to talk about him a lot because I talked about him last year, but I adore him and I continue to read this series, so he'll probably continue to pop up every year that I read a book from the series. Then we have favorite female main character, and that award goes to Shefali and Suzuka from The Tiger's Daughter from Kate Arsenault Rivera. These are two warrior women that live in a Chinese, Mongolian-inspired fantasy world, and they're in love with each other. And I love them. They are incredibly flawed and selfish at times, and sometimes almost codependent, but also their relationship is so strong, they're like fated to be together, and they're just strong in different ways and just powerhouse characters, and I adore both of them. Another returning character is Kelsey from The Invasion of the Tearling, but this is another continuing series. I loved her as well last year. Again, this very complex female character, flawed, growing a ton, and just so smart, but also having the burden of ruling on her shoulders, and she is fantastic. And I know that she's, again, a polarizing character, as many of my faves are, but I adore her. The next category is Best Plot Twist, and I have two for this because I have two for like every category. The first for Best Plot Twist, like series-wide, is the Red Rising series by Pierce Brown, and this is a series that I just started in 2017, and oh man, was I not expecting to love it as much as I do. This series keeps me on my toes the entire time. I never know what to expect. It's an adult science fiction dystopian series, and it's just non-stop and never gives you a break, and there's twists and turns, and like, you're expecting twists and turns, and you still aren't expecting the things that happen, and it's amazing. It's actually so stressful that I have to like, I'm always torn between reading more of it and needing to put it down because I'm so stressed, but also needing to read more of it because I'm so stressed. As far as single books, one of the best twists, I would say that's the 5th season by N.K. Jemisin. I'm going to talk about the series more in a future award category, so I'm not going to go into it a ton, but oh man. Then we have Best Book Cover, and that goes to An Enchantment of Ravens by Margot Rogerson. This has been a very polarizing read, but I don't think anyone can disagree about the cover. This cover is stunning, fantastic, breathtaking, everything I love. Such a fall, dark aesthetic with the ravens and the colors and everything. It is gorgeous. The illustration is by Charlie Bowater, who's an amazing, amazing artist. I recommend you look into them more because, oh man. Then we have Best Male Side Character or Sidekick. That is Temeraire from Temeraire by Naomi Novik. This is a Napoleonic Wars with Dragons series, and Temeraire is the most precious being in the entire world. He's the dragon. He's so cute. I love him so much. Like, I love both of them. I love the main character and I love him, but like, he's like a cat dog that talks. What more do you need, honestly? This series is so heartwarming. It's one that I want to continue in 2018. Like I said, Napoleonic Wars with Dragons, and the dragons and the people, the writers are so bonded, and it's like, it's one of those books that has so many cute, happy moments, but also can bring you to tears in the next chapter. Like, it is so great. Then we have Best Female Sidekick. This is kind of a mixed answer because they're technically a side character in Every Heart Adore by Sean McGuire, but I love them most in Down Among the Sticks and Bones, but they are a main character in Down Among the Sticks and Bones. But it's Jack from both books, who is again a side character in the first one and a main character in the second one, but she's amazing. The second book in particular is one of my favorite books of the year. It is so breathtaking in so many ways, and it's just about so many different things. It's such a small novella. These are about kids who are taken or walk into portal worlds and then come back. So the first book is about the boarding school where they all live after they come back, where they're trying to kind of like readjust to society, and some of these later novellas are about the worlds that they were in. So this one is about the world that they're in, and it's a very dark, twisted, like gothic literature type world, and it also talks a lot about like parenting and expectations and bad parenting and gender norms and all this stuff. It's so good. It packs a punch for a tiny book. Then we have Most Unique Plot / World. So again, for this I'm going to talk about the 5th season by N.K. Jemisin. This is a post-apocalyptic, futuristic, the apocalypse is currently happening fantasy world, but it's also implied that it's kind of our world maybe, so it's a future. It's a lot, but it is so wonderful, and the world and the plot are equally good. It is breathtaking. I'm currently reading the last book in the series right now, and I know it's not going to disappoint me. It talks about themes of oppression and systematic oppression, and all of the characters are people of color for the most part, like 98% of them are, and just the magic users are controlled by people because people are afraid of them, and it's a very unique magic system involving these people being able to control like the movement of the earth and like the earth in general, like tectonic plates, but also the earth in general, and all. It's so much, and it's so complex, and it's focused on female characters who are incredibly flawed, and it's beautiful. I have nothing bad to say about this series. It's multiple award winning for a reason. And the second world that I loved and adored was The Bear and the Nightingale by Katherine Arden. This takes place in Russia, where the fantasy elements of Russian folktale and mythology are real, and that kind of atmosphere, which is also taking place in Deathless by Catherine Valente, which I couldn't quite call a favorite book, but is a book that I still kind of rotate back to, even though I only gave it like 3 or 3.5 stars because of how it was written. But this doesn't have those kinds of issues for me, and it's so beautiful, lush, and wonderful. I've recently done a review on this, so you can hear more of my thoughts there, but oh man, is this just like my favorite. When there's dark things in the forest that may or may not be friendly, and the gods are real and the folktales are real, and you have to appease those things because they could turn against you, like, I love it. The next category is Best Book to Movie Adaptation. Now this category is always really hard for me because I'm not a huge adaptation person and that I don't follow all of them. I just always forget when this time of year rolls around, and there weren't really a lot in 2017, but one that I did love was Wonder Woman. And that's a comic book to movie adaptation, but oh man, was that one of my favorite movies of 2017. It brought me to tears. I mean, everyone knows at this point that this is one of the best movies of the year, that everybody loved it, and it was incredibly well received, and it was amazing, and Diana as a character is amazing, and the theme song is amazing, and like everything is good, and it made me so happy. The next category is favorite author that I discovered this year, and these are two that I've already talked about. The first is Pierce Brown, who's the author of the Red Rising series. I did not expect to love this series as much as I did, like I said, but I do love it a ton, and now I'm going to read everything that he comes out with. The same is true for N.K. Jemisin. Now I expected to like her stuff, but I didn't expect to love her stuff, and now I want to go back and read all the things that she has ever written, and I plan on reading everything else that she comes out with because everything she does is stunning. The next category is Best Graphic Novel, and this was actually hard but also easy because thankfully the one graphic novel series that I read this year was my favorite, but I didn't actually read a ton of graphic novels this year. It was really bad. I don't know why I didn't. But the graphic novel series that I read and loved was Descender. This is a science fiction series, and it follows this little boy robot in a world where robots, I think like 20 years ago, came, and robots were like a major part of the world and society and AIs and stuff, but then 20 years ago these like huge alien robots came and like destroyed everything, so now people hate robots and robots are like hunted, and he wakes up and he was a companion robot for a little boy and he just wants to find his family. It is so good. It is dark. I like the art style, but it is so good and so sweet and so heartwarming and so like found family, but it's also like really sad. I love it. And this was a category that I added last year because I had to, and I will continue to. And I think this series also maybe might have been talked about last year in this category, but that is Best Angst And that is Wind Witch by Susan Denner. This is the second book in the Truth Witch series, and Truth Witch I talked about a lot last year. And honestly, Azult, who won my favorite female character of last year, I could have mentioned again, but I need to just try to keep these things contained. And I read this at the very beginning of last year, so I almost forget, but I don't, because I love her. But man, I struggled, and you'll hear about this more in my 2017 favorite and least favorite couples of the year. I did not have a very good shipping year, guys. I did not have a good time. Most of them I felt very meh about. I don't even have a lot of hated ships, but my top 10 this year does not compare to my top 10 as far as like feelings in previous years, and that is sad. But this, man. Basically all the couples in here are very angsty, but in particular Edwin and Azult are my two top wonderful angsty characters because they're angsty alone and then together, and it's a lot. And thankfully this book existed, because otherwise I would not have my fresh serving of angst in books this year, because there was not enough. There was not enough. But this series isn't just about like shipping or anything. Honestly, that's like the least of my concern with this series. This has an amazing plot, it has an amazing magic system and world with all these different kinds of witches and these different kinds of magic users, and it has a whole theme of female friendship being super, super important, and there's a whole cast of characters, and it's so good. Read it. Then we have Best Action, and that has to go to the Red Rising series by Pierce Brown. This is non-stop, doesn't let up, doesn't let you breathe. No other series makes me quite as anxious as this series. Like I said, I always struggled between, do I put this down or do I keep reading, because I'm so nervous for these characters. Like, this is so much. Then we have Best Standalone, and I'm honestly considering in future reviews changing this to Best Contemporary, because I end up talking about contemporary books in the standalone category. I don't, because I know that I could also talk about some standalone SFF in here at some point, but this is where I just really showcase some of my favorite contemporary of the year. The first one being Eliza and Her Monsters by Francisca Zapaya. Oh man, if you love fandom, and have you been in fandom and you know what that's like, this is the contemporary book for you, because this one revolves around a main character who is a famous zine writer, a famous comic writer online, and there's fan fiction about her work, but nobody knows who she is, and it's just her kind of managing that, and it's just like a love letter to fandom in every way, and there's just so much good about it, and I adored this. Completely ate it up. It was a book that I wasn't expecting to love as much as I did, and here we are with me still thinking about it. We also have The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas, which I don't need to go into because so many people have talked about this, but I listened to this on audiobook and I highly recommend that. It is one of my favorite audiobooks I've ever listened to. It's beautiful. It's about the Black Lives Matter movement when the main character's childhood friend ends up getting shot by the police, and her involvement in that and that movement and all these things, and it has really great like family dynamics and friendship and all this stuff. It's so good, and all of the like hype that it's gotten, well deserved. And lastly is one that doesn't get quite as much hype as the other two, and that is We're Okay by Nina LaCour. This is one that I read in one sitting, and I need to reread it even because there are things about it that I just forgot because I was in hail reading it, because it's shorter and it's just like so emotional, and I remember the emotions that I felt during it. But it's about a girl who went away to college, and right before she went away, a lot of tumultuous things happened in her life, so she hasn't talked to her best friend since she left, who's another girl, and they actually had a relationship, a romantic relationship, and that thing isn't really resolved. And so the friend is coming to stay with her for a while, and they're going to resolve all of that. And it is such an emotional book and something that just like sits with you, but it's one that I would like to reread again and just like have more time with, because I was so interested in what was going to happen that I just kept reading it so quickly that I feel like I've forgotten bits and pieces of it, but definitely a 5-star contemporary read for me this year. Then we have Best Ensemble Cast. Now, I didn't read a lot of like true ensemble cast the way that I have in previous years, but as far as the book where there were multiple POVs and I enjoyed all of them, that was Elantris by Brandon Sanderson, which was very unexpected. I talked about it when I read it, where a lot of people don't really like this book as much as other books. It was his first book, and people don't talk about it as highly as his other ones, but oh man, I liked every single POV in here. You have an antagonist and two protagonists, and you have all their POVs, and I loved all of these characters. They were all complex human characters, and the protagonists, surprisingly, because I know a lot of you guys know that I love my anti-heroes, my anti-villains, my villains, but the protagonists are genuinely good people who I love, which doesn't happen a lot. And then we have Best Finale. Now you guys know that I struggle with finales. So this book isn't even necessarily a book that I would put on my favorites of the year, but at the same time, The series I'm really glad that I read this year, and the series is a series that I will always associate with 2017 now. And I liked it, but I didn't love it because it has its problems. You guys probably know what I'm talking about. The best finale this year was Clockwork Princess by Cassandra Clare. Now, it still had its faults, and this is still a series that isn't at all like blameless or perfect or anything, but of all the finales I read this year, this was the best one by far. This was the best book of the series in my opinion. I think the series gets better as each book goes on, and this is the book that I had the least amount of problems with for the most part. There were some plot things with this book that I don't think were as well done, but the character stuff, which is why I read this series, the character stuff, top notch. So that is it for my favorite books of 2017, my 2017 book awards. Comment down below and let me know some of the books would fit in these different categories for you. And like I said, the other video that you guys are really highly anticipating about the couples, it's coming. It's coming, I promise. So thank you all for watching, and I'll see all of you guys soon. Bye.